This poem is titled, I Wish I Could Have Kissed Devon Wilson in the Mouth. Not to taste Jimi Hendrix or Miles Davis or Mick Jagger, but to swallow her tongue before she did. Blade liquor to blade liquor. I bet she tasted like a hallucination. I think I see her in my lover's wet cave listening for rain. If I had been born a musician instead of a poet, maybe if she had preferred belladonna to foxglove. Devon wasn't the medicine, but she was the mortar. She was who you wanted to hold the balm. Death is the only fountain of youth, coin-fed and greedy and shrinking the closer you get to God. Devon with the afro, heaven high, Devon who knew banishment and wasn't bashful about it, a childhood written as characterized by violence and poverty, leather-clad cocaine cocktail conversation in the back of my throat. She makes my heart water. I don't understand how they called her a groupie and not what happens to the sweet and mysterious Black space after the stars burn inside of it. It's divine, not quite divine, but kind of close. I know the feeling, and I still wonder what it tastes like on someone else. And I know it's irony, because this is what she was doing her whole entire legend, so starved that when hope came, she knew nothing but to gulp it down. And in the end, no one knows if she jumped or if she was pushed, but she was returned to the concrete, replanted rose, her body a bloody bouquet, her audience unfazed. This poem is called For Poussey. Actually, I don't want to do that poem. I'm going to go ahead and follow my first gut. I'm going to replace it with another poem that I feel like is more timely, but it also fits into this category, and it's a little bit shorter. And that poem is a rather long poem. So I want to go ahead and give you this poem. And it's a relatively new poem. And yeah, it'll be out for publication too, relatively soon. So that's a cool thing. I'm not the only person who likes this poem. It's also, I also want to talk about form a little bit. This is something, this poem is a part of a series of poems that is broken into 4 parts. And this particular poem that I'm reading from the series is the second poem in the series. And it plays with pantoums and repetition. Part 2, Cleo, or taking one thing to mean another. And all I'm saying is, Queen Latifah was the one who sacrificed herself and set it off. Cleo, with her beautiful fat and a laugh, honey heavy packs of Newport Strong, she died feeling disposable. You shouldn't even have to live like that. Who sacrificed herself and set it off? Cleo, with her beautiful fat and a laugh, honey heavy packs of Newport Strong. All I'm saying is her scalp slipped back like an arrow. She died feeling disposable. You shouldn't even have to live like that. She's not the only one to die. They all Black women. But of course, she is the first to offer lesbian. And all I'm saying is her scalp slipped back like an arrow. Her girlfriend ain't speak the whole movie. A goodbye caught in her throat like a wishbone. She not the only one to die. They all Black women. But of course, she is the first to offer lesbian. You can call it what you want, but they will still give you a betrayal. Her girlfriend ain't speak the whole movie. A goodbye caught in her throat like a wishbone. Ursula, a ghost to everyone but Cleo. I bet the first time she spoke, a haunting happened. You can call it what you want, girlfriend, but it's still a betrayal. Heteronormativity betrays itself. Damn right, it's gonna play you, sis, meaning when they ask, what is different about this picture? And they will ask, you must point to yourself and disappear. She opened her pretty ass mouth, and I bet the first time she spoke, a haunting happened. 90s West Coast rap dripping like everything shiny in the hood, like bodies. Her friends pile up in her whip. She loved that motherfucking car so much, I just know it's gonna be her casket. I know her girl gonna bury her alone, meaning I think the most beautiful thing about the color purple is Suge and Celie trying to kiss the ugly off each other and realizing the ugly was never theirs to begin with. Everything is a sacrifice on loop. So that is that poem. And I'm gonna finish a poem that I think is fun. Now, my ex doesn't think it's fun. My ex never thought this was a fun poem, but this is one of my performance poems that I do pretty well with in slam. It's one that my audience tends to like, and it's one that I still enjoy doing. Although I do not feel this way about her anymore, so sometimes I'm like, should I still do this poem? I don't know, but here we are. I decided to do it tonight. I might retire it after this, so everybody enjoy. Hexes for my exes. After Rachel Wiley, the boss. Go look up Rachel Wiley. Oh, ex-lover. I heard that you heard that I don't wish you shit. But that's not true. I still wish you plenty of shit. For instance, I wish you really, really, really fantastic marijuana. And then I wish you a marijuana tolerance so high, a session with Snoop Dogg, Cheech and Chong, Martha, Wiz Khalifa, Rihanna, Scooby, and Shaggy, plus me will not work. I wish you trips. I do. I wish your mama stay tripping, your new job stay tripping, your new boo stay tripping. I wish every day of your life was a fucking trip with really great weed that will not get you high. I wish you into bars that serve everything except what you want. I wish my heart to be the only thing on tap. I wish you scuff shoes after buying them for the first time every time. I wish you more girls. I do. I wish you girls who claim they are nerds but don't know the difference between Marvel and DC characters. I wish you girls who tell you they can't cook and they can cook. They just don't want to cook for your punk ass. I wish you girls who tell you they can squirt, but it's really not squirt. I wish you end pieces of bread. I wish you nothing but end pieces of bread. I wish you entire loaves of end pieces of bread. I wish you into a world where chocolate doesn't exist. I wish you into a world where bloodthirsty ostriches roam the free land searching for your blood. I wish you into a world where there is no music except Drake mixtapes, Taylor Swift on every hook, which really ain't that bad until it's all you got, and then it's that fucking bad. I wish you into a world where your tongue tastes everything except me as overcooked okra, a world where I never had to write this poem, a world where my wishes weren't so much like you, girl, good inside my mouth, meaningless the moment you left. Thank you. And thank you for having me. That is my set.
Thank you, Siaara. I think we could have a whole program on the intersection between your sexuality and urban and poetry and all of that. So I don't even know where to go with that, and we're kind of near the end here. But if there's something that you'd like to comment on that in terms of, I'm thinking especially in terms of your work, which I'd like to touch to at the very end as a teacher, and with other students, that you could encourage people who may be in both those boats or the boat together or similar. Anyway, if you could talk about that just for a second.
Sure, sure. Yeah, like one of the things that as a writer, as a 30-year-old writer now, and I've been writing since I was 15. I've been doing this since Brave New Voices, performing poetry since I was 15. And so I really do love my students. They remind me so much of me, first and foremost. It's just like getting to experience one childhood again. I'm such a nerd. I watch cartoons all the time. I don't have any children, but if you come into my house, I have so many toys and like kid animated type ideals, you would assume that I had a child. So I really love my students. They're my hearts first and foremost. But to talk about what my sexuality does, in fact, that's so interesting. One of my students just came out to me. One of my young ladies just came out to me. And I'm so proud of her. She had been writing about it, but you never want to assume with children. I'm like, maybe this is just an outlet, but she finally went ahead and said something to me. And I
Excuse me,
think that's a big.
how old are your students, just to help us with that?
Oh, okay, absolutely. So what I deal with primarily, it's different now because of virtual life. I've actually had to expand who I'm teaching. I typically teach high schoolers, but now I also have middle schoolers. So
Okay.
now
Yeah,
I am
because
all the way across the board. And like where most educators are like, middle school is so hard. I love middle schoolers. I might do it permanently. I'm like, whenever we get back into school, I like them. I think they are the most open-minded. Like where high schoolers think they're too cool sometimes at that space. They're not at that space where they think they're too cool, but they're also still sweet, like elementary school kids. Like they still want to be loved and validated. I could talk about my babies forever, so just let me focus for a second. So being queer, I think is.
Yeah, the girl, you said one of your students talked to you about coming out when I interrupted you so
Yeah.
rudely. I'm
No, no,
sorry.
no, no. It was not rude. I will do the same thing. And I'm just saying I will go on a tangent and have a whole conversation. I'm trying to stop me really and make sure I answer what you need to be answered. So really at this point, when I think about my students and in different ways they've been comfortable, because it's not just been as far as sexuality. My kids feel like my teacher's a poet, my teacher cares more. My teacher cares when I get bullied. My teacher cares about extra stuff. My teacher cares if I'm hungry. My teacher cares if my mom's mean to me. My teacher cares if the girls on. My teacher cares in a way that, and my teacher has time to care. My teacher does not seem exhausted, like maybe my other teachers or my parents do. So I think being an artist keeps me young in a sense. And I also think it keeps me open. And I think children really sense openness. They sense it because they want it, they need it, and they kind of gravitate towards it. So, and I feel like they are constantly making me want to be better, a better example of me. And I think that's how parents feel when they have kids. So I'm like, this is cool that I didn't have to go through childbirth to get this feeling of I want to be a better person because someone is paying attention to me. And I'm the youngest child, so I've never been in that position. And as far as my sexuality is concerned, it's always been something that I've made absolutely clear in my public life, and I've tried to make it clear in my career, but it's still something people don't seem to pick up on often. I don't know if it's because I'm a more femme queer person, but they seem to like not want to invite me often into queer conversations, and I'm often like, why? I have so many thoughts. I've been out since I was 14 years old. Why don't you want to? I know Audre Lorde. I've read all the queer greats. Is it because I wear dresses? It's because I'm a lipstick lesbian, isn't it? And it's also because I'm Black. Like I get all these feelings, and I'm like, I could have these conversations with you. I certainly can have these conversations with you. But I think it's important because my students specifically said like, it's because I know you exist, and I know you outly exist, and I know that when I hear my mom or their friends talking about queer women, they talk about them like they're failures, and they don't do, like, my mom would never guess. And she's like, I never told my mom because I like how much she likes you. She also was like, but you can tell her I don't care if she doesn't like me anymore after this. But she's like, I've never told her because she likes you a lot. But she's like, I think she would just be so surprised to know that the person that she likes and admires, and Miss Freeman said this and Miss Freeman said that. And she's like, well, Miss Freeman's queer. And she's like, and that's something that she gets to sit with. And it's like, you might not think the best of queer people, but that's because you haven't proximity. It goes back to that conversation I said about proximity. Her mother does not know what proximity she is in with a queer woman. Because as a teacher, I'm like, I'm not discussing my personal life with you. I don't have to. You're a parent. And so just that idea of having to I'm so out, and just knowing that my outness represents something to a lot of different girls. And that's a blessing, because you want to be a role model. At least I want to be a role model. And if you are going to be a role model, this is just my suggestion, and I'll leave it at that. As an artist, if you are going to try to be a role model, know exactly what you're trying to model before you try to do it. And like, be open, allowing yourself to grow, allow your mind to change, allow new ideas to come. And I'm talking to myself too. This is a reminder from when I watched this on YouTube. Follow your own compass in your heart, but don't be so set in change. And just be the best you can be. Nobody's role model is perfect, but the perfect role model keeps trying. And just remember that.
So that's for you, but the advice that you give to students that might be urban, Black, gay, or anything,
that they are just as important. I think a lot of what kids really want to hear is, I am valid, and that representation. And I think, again, it's a lot more than what it has been, especially with the LGBTQ community, and even also with urban children and Black children. But the idea of continuously reinforcing this and letting them know that that one, you have a future. And then two, like, actually doing the research and work with them to remind them that they have a past, right? So, like, yeah, you are not the first person to be LGBTQ. I'm not the first person to be LGBTQ. Let me show you these books. Let me show you the people who paved the way for you and I to exist as outly as we do. So once I know who my students are and how they feel, if they feel isolated, I try to remind them that they're not. And I'm a big reader. Like, I would show you all my books in my office is a mess right now. And I so many books, and I just feel like they're the gateway, right? And so I constantly try to tell my children, if you come to me all the time, but do the research before you feel so left out. You go to Google for everything else. I watch my kids go to Google for anything. Go to Google and type in 12-year-old girl who is Black and queer and questioning and likes comic books. Watch it be a whole wiki page about her. She exists. And sometimes that representation is important. And I'm like, and if she does not exist yet, then you have got to be her. And that's what I remind my students. And if you can't find an example, then that means now you're the example. And now you have to do that for the next girl, because there is someone coming after you. There's always someone who's going to come after you. And there was always someone who was before you.